The oracles of the UCI. 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be ye therefore sober, and watch unto prayer. And above all things have fervent love among yourselves. For love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received the gift, even so minister the same one to another as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua the Mashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through chapter 5 and verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you're sealed until the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yahshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim, as their children, and walk in love, as the Mashiach also have loved us and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becomes saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you upon earth, therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you to keep you in the way, and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome to another holy convocation. As you guys see, we are doing things a little bit different. So I, first have to begin and thank you guys for bearing with us while we figure out our broadcast. I am actually streaming from home because I am quarantined. I have received a positive COVID test. So I am separating from everybody else. And I would also like to, solicit y'all prayers for me and my family while we separate. Kishnan was just looking at, my girls in face masks in here because I'm in the, I'm they was helping to set up the computer by before I came in here. So praise Yahweh that those brothers are being dedicated to do what needs to be done so that we can still broadcast. But all your prayers will be greatly appreciated. Today's sermon is entitled Reconstructing the Kingdom. When we deal with all of the things of each time, we go back into setting up these things for this kingdom, this culture that Yahweh has given unto us. There are some very difficult things that we end up having to set up, and there's some very difficult things that we things that we might have gotten accustomed to that have to be gotten done away with. And those are the things that we have to get our minds right for. There are a whole lot of things that exist in the land now because of the long period of time that the heathens have controlled the kingdom. Um, a lot of those things are going to have to be removed, and it is not going to be one of those things where we get to be passive or neutral or something like that. It's definitely going to be something that we're going to have to make some very difficult decisions in putting forward. We're going to begin today's sermon in Exodus chapter 11. Exodus chapter 11, and we're going to read verses 1 through 10.
And Yahweh said unto Moshe, Yet will I bring one more plague more upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt. Afterwards will I let you go hence. When he shall let you go, he shall surely thrust you out thence altogether. Speak now in the ears of the people, and let every man borrow of his neighbor, and every woman of her neighbor, jewels of silver and jewels of gold. And Yahweh gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. Moreover, the man Moshe was very great in the land of Egypt, in the sight of Pharaoh's servants, and in the sight of the people. And Moshe said, Thus saith Yahweh, about midnight will I go out into the midst of Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sits upon his throne, even unto the firstborn of the maidservant that is behind the mill, and all the firstborn of beasts. And there shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt, such as there was none like it, nor shall be like it any more. But against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue, against man or beast, that you may know how that Yahweh does put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. And all these your servants shall come down unto me, and bow down themselves unto me, saying, Get you out, and all the people that follow you. And after that I will go out. And he went out from Pharaoh in a great anger. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, Pharaoh shall not hearken unto you, that my wonders may be multiplied in the land of Egypt. And Moshe and Aaron did all these wonders before Pharaoh. And Yahweh hardened Pharaoh's heart, so that he would not let the children of Israel go out of his land.
All right. Part of the thing here that we have to look at is Yahweh giving us some form of reparation as we are leaving the cover of Egypt. But what we also have to look at is what we ended up doing with those things, and Yahweh is actually providing for the rebuilding of the kingdom. He's providing for what's going to be next. But what we end up doing is kind of going into some other things with that. Let's go to Exodus chapter 32. Exodus chapter 32, and we're going to start that at verse 1.
And when the people saw that Moshe delayed to come down out of the mount, the people gathered themselves together unto Aaron, and said unto him, Up, make us gods, which shall go before us. For as for this Moshe, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we know not what is become of him. And Aaron said unto them, Break off the golden earrings, which are in the ears of your wives, of your sons, and of your daughters, and bring them unto me. And all the people brake off the golden earrings which were in their ears, and brought them unto Aaron. And he received them at their hand, and fashioned them with a graving tool, after he had made it a molten calf. And they said, These be your gods, O Israel, which brought you up out of the land of Egypt. And when Aaron saw it, he built an altar before it. And Aaron made proclamation and said, Tomorrow is a feast to Yahweh. And they rose up early on the morrow, and offered burnt offerings, and brought peace offerings. And the people sat down to eat and to drink, and rose up to play.
So then we see what they ended up doing with those golden earrings, they ended up making a Egyptian god, but then still putting the name of Yahweh, intertwining it with this Egyptian god. And these are the very things that, when we talk about reconstructing the kingdom, all of those things have to be done away with. There's so many things that have been mingled with other things. And Yahweh is going to have a serious problem with that. Even though Yahweh made all the trees, he still said he doesn't want any groves near his altar. Now the tree is his, but because he knows what man has done with the grove and how man has worshiped these evergreen trees, he doesn't even want the image of those things near him. Go ahead.
Verse 7. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, Go, get you down, for your people, which you brought up out of the land of Egypt, have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside quickly out of the way which I commanded them. They have made them a molten calf, and have worshipped it, and have sacrificed thereunto, and said, These be your gods, O Israel, which have brought you up out of the land of Egypt. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, I have seen this people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people. Now therefore let me alone, that my wrath may wax hot against them, and that I may consume them, and I'll make of you a great nation. And Moshe besought Yahweh his Elohim, and said, Yahweh, why does your wrath wax hot against your people, which you have brought forth out of the land of Egypt with great power and with a mighty hand? Wherefore should the Egyptians speak and say, For mischief did he bring them out, to slay them in the mountains and to consume them from the face of the earth? Turn from your fierce wrath and repent of this evil against your people. Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, your servants, to whom you sweareth by your own self, and said unto them, I'll multiply your seed as the stars of heaven, and all this land that I have spoken of will I give unto your seed, and they shall inherit it forever. And Yahweh repented of the evil which he thought to do unto his people. And Moshe turned and went down from the mount, and the 2 tables of testimony were in his hand, and the tables were written on both their sides. On the one side and on the other were they written. And the
Now,
tables were the work.
When you look at that, you can see how Yahweh is a covenant Elohim and how he deals with covenants. Yahweh gets angry with how Israel is operating. But to get Yahweh to repent, Moshe starts going into all of the promises that Yahweh has made with the forefathers before. So it pulled Yahweh out of his immediate feeling and going back to the previous promises. And because he is a covenant Elohim, covenants mean something to him. They mean a great deal to him. So to get Yahweh up out of his present anger against the children of Israel, he had to go into the promises that were made beforehand. And it caused Yahweh to even step back from his anger. And that's a pretty powerful thing. But you have to look at and take into consideration just how important then covenants are to him. Go ahead.
You know, my brother, in that same token, it's like what you were talking about earlier, you know, making this happen by all means possible. And that's what people understand, that at baptism, you know, we basically took an oath to become servants. And that's what we're doing. We're serving and making this go through by whatever means necessary. Verse 16. And the tables were the work of Elohim, and the writing was the writing of Elohim, graven upon the tables. And when Yahshua heard the noise of the people, as they shouted, he said unto Moshe, There's a noise of war in the camp. And he said, It is not the voice of them that shout for mastery, neither is it the voice of them that cry for being overcome, but the noise of them that sing do I hear. And it came to pass, as soon as he came near unto the camp, that he saw the calf and the dancing, and Moshe's anger waxed hot, and he cast the tables out of his hands and brake them beneath the mount. And he took the calf which they had made and burnt it in the fire, and ground it to powder, and strawed it upon the water, and made the children of Israel drink of it. And Moshe said unto Aaron, what did this people unto you, that you have brought so great a sin upon them? And Aaron said, let not the anger of my master wax hot. You know the people, that they're set on mischief. For they said unto me, make us gods, which shall go before us. For as for this Moshe, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we know not what is become of him. I said unto them, whosoever has any gold, let them break it off. So they gave it me. Then I cast it into the fire, and there came out this calf. And when Moshe saw that the people were naked, for Aaron had made them naked unto their shame among their enemies, then Moshe stood in the gate of the camp and said, who is on Yahweh's side? Let him come unto me. And all the sons of Levi gathered themselves together unto him. And he said unto them, thus says Yahweh El of Israel, put every man his sword by his side, and go in and out from gate to gate throughout the camp, and slay every man his brother, and every man his companion, and every man his neighbor. And the children of Levi did according to the word of Moshe, and there fell of the people that day about 3,000 men.
Now, you know, when you look at this, Yahweh was very lenient unto Aaron, because even though all of this is happening, understand that now you have this situation where let every man gird on his weapon and go and slay Israel for this disobedience. But the person that put these things together was Aaron, and Yahweh could have really made some things happen against him at that point. This is also one of the things where you look and where I would say a lot of times, it's a good thing to have a some kind of job for Yahweh, because you can only see protection in this because he has the job, because that right there was pretty serious. And there was a couple of times that Yahweh has done that. When you look at the situation that happened with Miriam, it was Miriam that ended up being leprous as snow, and Aaron didn't get fully dealt with in that situation either. So there was a leeway given for the things that Aaron had to go through, and the just the shakiness of having to be face to face with Israel in their power, demanding something. Go ahead.
Exodus chapter 32 and verse 29. For Moshe had said, consecrate yourselves today to Yahweh, even every man upon his son and upon his brother, that he may bestow upon you a blessing this day. And it came to pass on the morrow that Moshe said unto the people, you have sinned a great sin, and now will I go up unto Yahweh, peradventure I shall make an atonement for your sin. And Moshe returned unto Yahweh and said, oh, this people have sinned a great sin, and have made them gods of gold. Yet now, if you will forgive their sin, and if not, blot me, I pray you, out of your book which you have written. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, whosoever has sinned against me, him will I blot out of my book. Therefore now go, lead the people on to the place of which I have spoken unto you. Behold, mine angel shall go before you. Nevertheless, in the day when I will visit their sin upon them. And Yahweh plagued the people because they had made the calf which Aaron made.
As it says, the one that Aaron made. but he ended up plaguing the people because it was definitely of the people why it was done, but it was still a pretty strong thing that Aaron made it. Let's go to Exodus chapter 35.
Exodus chapter 35 and verse 1. And Moshe gathered all the congregation of the children of Israel together, and said unto them, These are the words which Yahweh has commanded, that you should do them. 6 days shall work be done, but on the seventh day there shall be to you an holy day, a Sabbath of rest to Yah. Whosoever does work therein shall be put to death. You shall kindle no fire throughout your habitations upon the Sabbath day. And Moshe spake unto all the congregation of the children of Israel, saying, This is the thing which Yahweh commanded, saying, Take you from among you an offering unto Yah. Whosoever is of a willing heart, let him bring it, an offering of Yah, gold and silver and brass, and blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen and goat's hair, and ram skins dyed red, and badger skins and shittim wood, and oil for the light, and spices for anointing oil, and for the sweet incense, and onyx stones and stones to be set for the ephod and for the breastplate. And every wise-hearted among you shall come and make all that Yahweh has commanded. The tabernacle, his tent, and his covering, his taches, and his boards, his bars, his pillars, and his sockets, the ark, and the staves thereof, with the mercy seat, and the veil of the covering.
So when you look at all of these things, it is these are holy things, and it is the children of Israel's responsibility to help provide these things for these holy things to be constructed. And you then start to see, even as Yahweh was saying, borrow of the Egyptians, get all of these things. You can see where Yahweh already had plans for some of those things that were going to be received from the Egyptians. But then we, of course, were quick to fashion an Egyptian god. But you see that Yahweh already had a purpose for a lot of those things that we were going to receive, because it was Israel that has to have a stake in the holy things that are put together. So he's already providing. Yahweh ends up providing before time, and that's where sometimes things get confusing, because Yahweh has provided something beforehand, and then because we may not know the purpose yet, we have taken that substance and done something else with it. But that substance is for some other things that he's going to do down the road. Go ahead.
Verse 13. The table and his staves and all his vessels and the showbread. The candlestick also for the light, and his furniture, and his lamps with the oil for the light. And the incense altar, and his staves, and the anointing oil, and the sweet incense, and the hanging for the door at the entering in of the tabernacle, the altar of burnt offering, with his brazen grate, his staves, and all his vessels, the laver and his foot, the hangings of the court, his pillars and their sockets, and the hanging for the door of the court, the pins of the tabernacle, and the pins of the court, and their cords, the cloths of service to do service in the holy place, the holy garments for Aaron the priest, and the garments of his sons to minister in the priest's office. And all the congregation of the children of Israel departed from the presence of Moshe. And they came, everyone whose heart stirred him up, and everyone whom his spirit made willing. And they brought Yahweh's offering to the work of the tabernacle of the congregation, and for all his service, and for the holy garments. And they came, both men and women, as many as were willing hearted, and brought bracelets and earrings and rings and tablets, all jewels of gold. Every man that offered an offering of gold unto Yah. And every
Now,
man,
now you see these very same things that we use to make the gods. You see the very same things are now being brought, and you find out that Israel jumped the gun as soon as they was not sure about what was happening with Moshe. It lets you know that sometimes how easy we could get one little thing to throw us off, and now we have all of that substance being made and given unto the glorification of a heathen god. But then as you get down in here, then you start hearing these very same things that we use for the wrong purpose. You now find out that Yahweh always had this in mind for those things. Go ahead.
and every man with whom was found blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen and goat's hair and red skins of rams and badger skins brought them. Everyone that did offer an offering of silver and brass brought Yahweh's offering. And every man with whom was found shittim wood for any work of the service brought it. And all the women that were wise hearted did spin with their hands, and brought that which they had spun, both of blue and of purple, and of scarlet, and of fine linen. And all the women whose hearts stirred them up in wisdom spun goat's hair. And the rulers brought onyx stones and stones to be set for the ephod and for the breastplate, and spice and oil for the light, and for the anointing oil, and for the sweet incense. The children of Israel brought a willing offering unto Yahweh, every man and woman whose heart made them willing to bring for all manner of work, which Yahweh had commanded to be made by the hand of Moshe. And Moshe said unto the children of Israel, See, Yahweh has called by name Bezaleel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Yehudah. And he has filled him with the spirit of Elohim, in wisdom, in understanding, and in knowledge, and in all manner of workmanship, and to devise curious works, to work in gold, and in silver, and in brass, and in the cutting of stones, to set them, and in carving of wood, to make any manner of cunning work. And he has put in his heart that he may teach both he and Ahilab, the son of Ahismac, of the tribe of Dan. Them has he filled with wisdom of heart to work all manner of work of the engraver and of the cunning workman and of the embroiderer, in blue and in purple, in scarlet and in fine linen, and of the weaver, even of them that do any work, and of those that devise cunning work.
And when you look at these things, as Yahweh is also providing the necessary utensils, the necessary articles for the building, he also provides the necessary know-how. He puts the spirit of understanding on certain individuals so that they will know what to do with those things. So it's very interesting in how Yahweh is going to do some things. You could probably see that the children of Israel could have gotten like, okay, so how are we going to do this? How are we going to make this happen? And then, they get to that point and say, wow, look, Yahweh has put into these people the spirit of understanding. And it may very well have been that these people hadn't had that level of understanding on any other thing before. Now, we still had people of understanding because we had to have being made to work with rigor under the Egyptians, we learned a lot of things. And as it is here in this time as well, being the children of ex-slaves, we picked up a lot of skills and know-how because of the things that we were pushed to do. Let's go to 2 Chronicles chapter 24.
Second Chronicles chapter 24 and verse 1. Joash was 7 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name also was Zebiah of Beersheba. And Joash did that which was right in the sight of Yahweh all the days of Jehoiada the priest. And Jehoiada took for him 2 wives, and he begat sons and daughters.
Now, one of the things you have to look at here, and Joash did that which was right in the sight of Yahweh all the days of Jehoiada the priest. The things that a lot of times we don't connect is what's there to make Israel walk correctly. And sometimes we can walk correctly as long as there is an aggressive individual there to make sure that it doesn't get out of hand. And that's what you see when you start dealing with Jehoiada, because we're talking about there were points where all of these kids' lives are in danger, and Jehoiada went and saved, you know, the royal seed from being completely destroyed. All right. So with having that kind of power there, it forces sometimes us to walk in a correct manner. And a lot of times we believe that we're going to walk correctly on our own. And sometimes what we need is that commanding figure that's going to make sure that things are done correctly. Go ahead.
Verse 4. And it came to pass after this that Joash was minded to repair the house of Yah. And he gathered together the priests and the Levites and said unto them, Go out unto the cities of Yehudah, and gather all Israel money to repair the house of your El from year to year, and see that you hasten the matter. Howbeit the Levites hastened it not. And the king called for Jehoiada the chief, and said unto him, Why has you not required of the Levites to bring in out of Yehudah and out of Jerusalem the collection, according to the commandment of Moshe the servant of Yah, and of the congregation of Israel, for the tabernacle of witness? For the sons of Athaliah, that wicked woman, had broken up the house of Elohim, and also all the dedicated things of the house of Yah did they bestow upon Baalim. And at the king's commandment they made a chest, and set it without at the gate of the house of Yah. And they made a proclamation through Yehudah and Jerusalem to bring into Yah the collection that Moshe, the servant of Elohim, laid upon Israel in the wilderness. And all the princes and all the people rejoiced, and brought in and cast into the chest until they had made an end. Now it came to pass that at what time the chest was brought onto the king's office by the hand of the Levites, and when they saw that there was much money, the king's scribe and the high priest's officer came and emptied the chest, and took it, and carried it to his place again. Thus they did day by day, and gathered money in abundance. And the king and Jehoiada gave it to such as did the work of the service of the house of Yah, and hired masons and carpenters to repair the house of Yah, and also such as wrought iron and brass to mend the house of Yah. So the workmen wrought, and the work was perfected by them, and they set the house of Elohim in his state, and strengthened it. And when they had finished it, they brought the rest of the money before the king and Jehoiada, whereof were made vessels for the house of Yah, even vessels to minister, and to offer withal, and spoons, and vessels of gold and silver. They offered burnt offerings in the house of Yah continually all the days of Jehoiada. But Jehoiada waxed old, and was full of days when he died. 130 years old was he when he died. And they buried him in the city of David among the kings, because he had done good in Israel, both towards Elohim and toward his house. Now after the death of Jehoiada came the princes of Yehuda, and made obeisance to the king, and the king hearkened unto them. And they left the house of Yahweh El of their fathers, and served groves and idols. And wrath came upon Yehuda and Jerusalem for this their trespass.
And you see how this then comes about after the death of this commanding figure. Now, after the death of Jehoiada came the princes of Yehuda and made obeisance to the king. Then the king hearkened unto them. See, so they knew that as long as Jehoiada was there, they had no opportunity to get to him. Jehoiada protected him from being presented with some of these negative situations. But as soon as he's no longer in the scenario, then here they come, and now he has hearkened unto them, and now things are changing. And understand, Jehoiada had looked out for, this man since he was an infant. He protected him, as it was saying in there, where Athaliah was killing off all of the seed royal. He was protected. Jehoiada was protecting him from all of these things. So you have, and look at how young he was. So Jehoiada is also directing him in a righteous way, because here it is. This was a kid as he's beginning to reign. So he had to lean on Jehoiada a lot. Go ahead.
Verse 19. Yet he sent prophets to them to bring them again unto Yahweh, and they testified against them, but they would not give ear. And the spirit of Elohim came upon Zechariah the son of Jehoiada the priest, which stood above the people, and said unto them, Thus says Elohim, why transgress you the commandments of Yahweh, that you cannot prosper? Because you have forsaken Yahweh, he has also forsaken you. And they conspired against him, and stoned him with stones at the commandment of the king in the court of the house of Yah. Thus Joash the king remembered not the kindness which Jehoiada his father had done to him, but slew his son. And when he died, he said, Yahweh, look upon it and require it. And it came to pass at the end of the year that the host of Syria came up against him. And they came to Yehuda and to Jerusalem, and destroyed all the princes of the people from among the people, and sent all the spoil of them unto the king of Damascus. For the army of the Syrians came with a small company of men, and Yahweh delivered a very great host into their hand, because they had forsaken Yahweh El of their fathers. So they executed judgment against Joash. And when they were departed from him, for they left him in great diseases, his own servants conspired against him for the blood of the sons of Jehoiada the priest, and slew him on his bed, and he died. And they buried him in the city of David, but they buried him not in the sepulchres of the kings. And these are they that conspired against him: Zebad, the son of Shimeath, and Ammonitis, and Jehozabad, the son of Shimerith, a Moabitess. Now concerning his sons, and the greatness of the burdens laid upon him, and the repairing of the house of Elohim, behold, they are written in the story of the book of the kings. And Amaziah, his son, reigned in his stead.
And when you look at these things, you see how the power of having Jehoiada's just his presence to be there, and even the people who had their negative thoughts, their negative situations where they wanted to worship other gods, you notice those things did not come about until he was gone. And then it shows you just how um, the loyalty is fickle with Israel. Because here, with all that this man had done for him to go and slay this man's son, and understand the man's son was slain because he said something righteous. He was saying that, hey, we've gotten off into some things. We are going away from what Moshe has given unto us. And then it was at the king's commandment that this man was then slain. So it within that, you see just how important one entity can be in rebuilding the kingdom, um, and having that commanding figure, so that even the ones who want to worship other gods, they are either ashamed or afraid to do so in his presence. That then seems to be a very powerful thing when it comes down to nation building. There has to be some kind of power that keeps Israel from just going off into whatever that is we want to do. Let's go to Nehemiah chapter 2.
Nehemiah chapter 2 and verse 1. And it came to pass in the month of Nisan, in the 20th year of Artaxerxes the king, that wine was before him. And I took up the wine and gave it unto the king. Now I had not been before time sad in his presence. Wherefore the king said unto me, Why is your countenance sad, seeing you are not sick? This is nothing else but sorrow of heart. Then I was very sore afraid, and said unto the king, Let the king live forever. Why should not my countenance be sad, when the city, the place of my father's grave, lies waste, and the gates thereof are consumed with fire? Then the king said unto me, For what does you make request? So I prayed to Elohim of heaven. And I said unto the king, If it please the king, and if your servant have found favor in your sight, that you would send me unto Yehuda, unto the city of my father's grave, that I may build it. And the king said unto me, the queen also sitting by him, For how long shall your journey? For how long shall your journey be? And when will you return? So it pleased the king to send me, and I set him a time. Moreover, I said unto the king, If it please the king, let letters be given to me. Let letters be given me to the governors beyond the river, that they may convey me over till I come into Yehuda. And a letter unto Asaph, the keeper of the king's forest, that he may give me timber to make beams for the gates of the palace, which appertain to the house, and for the wall of the city, and for the house that I shall enter into. And the king granted me, according to the good hand of my Elohim upon me. Then I came to the governors beyond the river, and gave them the king's letter. Now the king had sent captains of the army and horsemen with me. When Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the servant, the Ammonite, heard of it, it grieved them exceedingly that there was come a man to seek the welfare of the children of Israel. So I came to Jerusalem and was there 3 days. And I arose in the night, I and some few men with me. Neither told I any man what my Elohim had put in my heart to do at Jerusalem. Neither was there any beast with me, save the beast that I rode upon. And I went out by night by the gate of the valley, even before the dragon well, and to the dung port, and viewed the walls of Jerusalem, which were broken down, and the gates thereof were consumed with fire. Then I went on to the gate of the fountain, and to the king's pool, but there was no place for the beast that was under me to pass. Then went I up in the night by the brook, and viewed by the wall, and turned back, and entered by the gate of the valley, and so returned. And the rulers knew not whither I went, or what I did. Neither had I as yet told it to the Yehudis, nor to the priests, nor to the nobles, nor to the rulers, nor to the rest that did the work. Then said I unto them, You see the distress that we are in, how Jerusalem lies waste, and the gates thereof are burnt with fire. Come, and let us build up the wall of Jerusalem, that it be no more a reproach. Then I told them of the hand of my Elohim which was good upon me, as also the king's words that he had spoken unto me. And they said, Let us rise up and build. So they strengthened their hands for this good work. But when Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the servant of the Ammonite, verse 19, but when Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the servant, the Ammonite, and Geshem the Arabian heard it, they laughed us to scorn and despised us and said, What is this thing that you do? Will you rebel against the king? Then answered I them and said unto them, The El of heaven, he will prosper us. Therefore we his servants will arise and build, but you have no portion, nor right, nor memorial in Jerusalem.
Now, when you look at that, then answered I them and said unto them, the Elohim of heaven will prosper us. Therefore, we his servants will arise and build. But you have no portion, nor right, nor memorial in Jerusalem. So you see that the responsibility lies on the children of Israel to make these things happen. And as these things are being put into play, you find that other individuals want those things to stop. They don't want Israel to be set back up in the correct way in its power, as it is to this day. So if you thought that that was a problem then, we can only imagine the problems that we're going to have going forward. Go ahead.
Then Eliashib the high priest rose up with his brethren the priests, and they built the sheep gate. They sanctified it, and set up the doors of it, even unto the tower of Mia. They sanctified it unto the tower of Hananeel. And next unto him built the men of Jericho, and next to them built Zachor the son of Imrah. But the fish gate did the sons of Hassaniah build, who also laid the beams thereof, and set up the doors thereof, the locks thereof, and the bars thereof. And next unto them repaired Miramoth the son of Uriah, the son of Kaz. And next unto them repaired Meshullam the son of Berechiah, the son of Meshezabel. And next unto them repaired Zadok the son of Baana. And next unto them the Tekoites repaired, but their nobles put not their necks to the work of their master. Moreover, the old gate repaired Jehoiada the son of Pisa, and Meshullam the son of Besadiah. They laid the beams thereof, and set up the doors thereof, and the locks thereof, and the bars thereof. And next unto them repaired Mehaleth the Gibeonite, and Yadon the Meronothite, the men of Gibeon, and of Mizpah onto the throne of the governor on this side of the river.
Right. So then you see that there are many individuals, as you get down to doing some of these things, that other people will eventually come to help do those things. But something has to go into effect for that rebuilding, that reconstructing to even begin to take place. Go ahead.
Next unto him repaired Uzziel the son of Hariah of the goldsmiths. Next unto him also repaired Hananiah the son of one of the apothecaries, and they fortified Jerusalem onto the broad wall. And next unto them repaired Raphiah, the son of Hur, the ruler of the half part of Jerusalem. And next on to them repaired Yediah, the son of Hermah, even over against his house. And next on to him repaired Hatush, the son of Hashbaniah, Malachiah, the son of Harim, and Hashub, the son of Pahath Moab, repaired the other piece, and the tower of the furnaces. And next on to him repaired Shalem, the son of Helahesh, the ruler of the half part of Jerusalem, he and his daughters. The valley gate repaired Hanan, and the inhabitants of Zanoah. They built it and set up the doors thereof, the locks thereof, and the bars thereof, and 1,000 cubits on the wall unto the dung gate. But the dung gate repaired Malachiah the son of Rechab, the ruler of part of Beth Hasarim. He built it and set up the doors thereof, the locks thereof, and the bars thereof. But the gate of the fountain repaired Shalem the son of Kal-Hose, the ruler of part of Mizpah. He built it and covered it and set up the doors thereof, the locks thereof, and the bars thereof, and the wall of the pool of Shiloh by the king's garden, and onto the stairs that go down from the city of David. After him repaired Nehemiah the son of Azbach, the ruler of half part of Bethzor, onto the place over against the sepulchres of David, and onto the pool that was made, and onto the house of the mighty. After him repaired the Levites, Rehum, the son of Baanah. Next on to him repaired Hashabiah, the ruler of half part of Keilah, and his part.
And when we look at these things, you see a lot of times we like to have a neutral position, but when you get right down to these things, you see that there's no neutral positions. People are going to work to help put all of these things back together, and each one of those times that the children of Israel have to get pushed out of our land and things decay. Whenever we went back, we had to go and rebuild all of those things. So this is a normal occurrence. This is a normal situation with Israel, because it is Yahweh's punishment of what he said he was going to do to us if we did not follow his law in his land. Then we will be made to serve other people's gods in their land. So even the very things of us not having understanding of this word, that was a part of our curse. Just coming out and understanding some of the word of Yahweh is a release of a bit of the curse, because there are many people that are still here in the daughter of Babylon and have absolutely no understanding of who they are as people. They don't know that they're worshiping a false deity. So you have part of that curse has already been lifted for some of us, for us to even have some understanding. And I don't think, a lot of times we may take that for granted after a while. We greatly appreciate knowing the truth when we first hear it, but after a while of being in the truth, sometimes we take that truth for granted, because it's not new anymore. But what we're actually dealing with is the lifting of a curse, of a portion of the curse, and that is a very powerful thing. Let's go to jump to chapter 4 and start at verse 1.
Nehemiah chapter 4 and verse 1. But it came to pass that when Sanballat heard that we built the wall, he was angry and took great indignation and mocked the Yehudis. And he spake before his brethren and the army of Samaria and said, what do these feeble Jews? Will they fortify themselves? Will they sacrifice? Will they make an end in a day? Will they revive the stones out of the heaps of the rubbish which are burnt? Now Tobiah the Ammonite was by him, and he said, even that which they build, if a fox go up, he shall even break down their stone wall. Hear, O our Elohim, for we are despised, and turn their reproach upon their own head, and give them for a prey in the land of captivity. And cover not their lawlessness, and let not their sin be blotted out from before you, for they have provoked you to anger before the builders. So built we the wall, and all the wall was joined together unto the half thereof, for the people had a mind to work. But it came to pass that when Sanballat and Tobiah and the Arabians and the Ammonites and the Ashdodites heard that the walls of Jerusalem were made up and that the breaches began to be stopped, then they were very angry and
You know,
conspired
when
all
you
the
look at this, it says, so built we the wall in verse 6. And all the wall was joined together unto the half thereof, for the people had a mind to work. And it's something that we have to have our mind set ready for, because it's not just this thing. I think a lot of times we look at the kingdom and it's Yahshua coming to do everything, and we just go and live in a rebuilt kingdom, not understanding that we're going to definitely have to clock in and helping to rebuild that kingdom. We will not have a passive situation whereby we just take possession without having to fix and repair. As it is written, the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom. So it is most definitely some things that is going to be required of from us for us to be able to even represent our Elohim in a righteous kingdom. Go ahead.
verse 8, and conspired all of them together to come and to fight against Jerusalem and to hinder it. Nevertheless, we made our prayer unto our Elohim and set a watch against them day and night because of them. And Yehuda said, the strength of the bearers of burdens is decayed, and there is much rubbish, so that we are not able to build the wall. And our adversaries said, they shall not know, neither see, till we come into the midst among them and slay them and cause the work to cease. And it came to pass that when the Yehudis which dwelt by them came, they said unto us 10 times, from all places whence you shall return unto us, they will be upon you. Therefore said I, in the lower places behind the wall, and on the higher places, I even set the people after their families with their swords, their spears, and their bows. And I looked and rose up and said unto the nobles and to the rulers and to the rest of the people, be not you afraid of them. Remember the Adonai which is great and terrible, and fight for your brethren, your sons and your daughters, your wives and your houses. And it came to pass, when our enemies heard that it was known unto us, and Elohim had brought their counsel to naught, that we returned all of us to the wall, every one unto his work. And it came to pass from that time forth, that the half of my servants wrought in the work, and the other half of them held both the spears, the shields, and the bows, and the habergeons, and the rulers were behind all the house of Yehuda. They which built on the wall, and they that bear the burdens, with those that laid it, every one with one of his hands wrought in the work, and with the other hand held a weapon.
Right. So then you see, even to make this go forward, there is forcefulness that has to be there to oversee this building project. So they have to work with weapons because there are other entities at work that is not pleased with them reconstructing and repairing all of the breaches of Jerusalem. So this is most definitely the things that we're going to face on a much larger scale. Go ahead.
For the builders, every one had his sword girded by his side, and so built. And he that sounded the trumpet was by me. And I said unto the nobles, and to the rulers, and to the rest of the people, the work is great and large, and we're separated upon the wall, one far from another. In what place thereof you hear the sound of the trumpet, resort you thither unto us. Our Elohim shall fight for us. So we labored in the work, and half of them held the spears from the rising of the morning till the stars appeared. Likewise, at the same time said I unto the people, let every one with his servant lodge within Jerusalem, that in the night they may be a guard to us, and labor on the day. So neither I, nor my brethren, nor my servants, nor the men of the guard which followed me, none of us put off our clothes, saving that everyone put them off for washing.
That's pretty interesting. Just the dedication that you see that they have when it comes down to making those things happen. Let's go to chapter 13, Nehemiah chapter 13, and we're going to read verses 1 through 22.
Verse 1. On that day they read in the book of Moshe in the audience of the people, and therein was found written that the Ammonite and the Moabite should not come into the congregation of Elohim forever, because they met not the children of Israel with bread and with water, but hired Balaam against them, that he should curse them. Howbeit our Elohim turned the curse into a blessing. Now it came to pass, when they had heard the law, that they separated from Israel all the mixed multitude. And before this, Eliashib the priest, having the oversight of the chamber of the house of our Elohim, was allied unto Tobiah.
Right. You know, when you look at a lot of these things, this causes some issues here when you're talking about they separated from Israel all the mixed multitude. Yahweh has always had a situation where if someone wanted to keep the Passover, it says let all his males become circumcised, and then let him come and keep the Passover and the other holy days and all of those things. So when you talk about a mixed multitude, we're then talking about a mixed multitude in not just look, we're talking about mixed multitude in the culture that they are going to deal with. And that's what it all boils down to. When they are dealing with different cultures, it ends up pushing Israel to start dealing with other aspects of other people's culture. And that has caused us so many problems and so many different issues among our walk. I mean, we see other nations, we see some things we like, and we incorporate them into what Yahweh has given unto us. And I mean, that was the beginning situation in Egypt, the coming out with what Aaron did. We're going to take the Egyptian God, but we're going to merge it in with Yahweh. Then we're going to say that the Egyptian God is the God that brought us out of Egypt. So this is something that Israel has a tendency to do. Take the things of other cultures and merge them in with Yahweh's word. Go ahead.
Verse 5. And he had prepared for him a great chamber, where before time they laid the meat offerings, the frankincense, and the vessels, and the tithes of corn, the new wine, and the oil, which was commanded to be given to the Levites, and the singers, and the porters, and the offerings of the priests. But in all this time was not I at Jerusalem. For in the 32nd year of Artaxerxes, king of Babylon, came I unto the king, and after certain days obtained I leave of the king. And I came to Jerusalem, and understood of the evil that Eliashib did for Tobiah, in preparing him a chamber in the course of the house of Elohim. And it grieved me sore, therefore I cast forth all the household stuff of Tobiah out of the chamber. Then I commanded, and they cleansed the chambers, and thither brought I again the vessels of the house of Elohim, with the meat offering and the frankincense. And I perceived that the portions of the Levites had not been given them, for the Levites and the singers that did the work were fled everyone to his field. Then contended I with the rulers, and said, Why is the house of Elohim forsaken? And I gathered them together, and set them in their place. Then brought all Yehuda the tithe of the corn, and the new wine, and the oil unto the treasuries. And I made treasures over the treasuries, Shelemiah the priest, and Zadok the scribe, and of the Levites, Pedaiah. And next to them was Hanan the son of Zachor, the son of Mattaniah, for they were counted faithful, and their office was to distribute unto their brethren.
Now, in verse 11, then contended I with the rulers, and said, Why is the house of Elohim forsaken? And I gathered them together and set them in their place. So once again, a commanding situation is happening. Contending with the rulers puts you in a very interesting situation, where he's not sitting there in neutrality. He is putting himself in a very uncomfortable position, demanding that these things be done to set back up the things that are supposed to be set up. Go ahead.
Verse 14. Remember me, O my Elohim, concerning this thing. Wipe not out my good deeds that I have done for the house of my El, and for the officers thereof. In those days saw I in Yehuda some treading wine presses on the Sabbath, and bringing in sheaves, and lading asses, as also wine, grapes, and figs, and all manner of burdens, which they brought into Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. And I testified against them in the day wherein they sold victuals. There dwelt men of Tyre also therein, which brought fish and all manner of ware, and sold on the Sabbath unto the children of Yehuda and in Jerusalem.
Right, there dwelt men of Tyre, which brought fish and all manner of ware, and sold on the Sabbath unto the children of Yehuda. So then you have situations where we ourselves may not do those things because we say, okay, we know it's the Sabbath, but when somebody else presents it, then you see how Israel got off into going and partaking of those things because they were offered. So now somebody has to come and be a commanding figure to go and make some changes. Go ahead.
And I contended with the nobles of Yehuda, and said unto them, What evil thing is this that you do, and profane the Sabbath day? Did not your fathers thus, and did not our Elohim bring all this evil upon us, and upon this city? Yet you bring more wrath upon Israel by profaning the Sabbath. And it came to pass, that when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark before the Sabbath, I commanded that the gates should be shut, and charged that they should not be opened till after the Sabbath. And some of my servants set I at the gates, that there should no burden be brought in on the Sabbath day. So the merchants and sellers of all kind of ware lodged without Jerusalem once or twice. Then I testified against them, and said unto them, why lodge you about the wall? If you do so again, I'll lay hands on you. From that time forth came they no more on the Sabbath.
Right. So then to make sure that those things were done correctly, this brother had to threaten to lay hands on people. And one of the other things, if you back up, where as it's beginning to come into the Sabbath, he's having the gate shut. So here it is, you won't be coming in here, providing ways for the children of Israel to fall. See, so these are things that kind of cramp people's style, but at the same time, it is a part of rebuilding the kingdom situation. It is a part of the reconstruction that you erase the opportunities for the fall. And that's what he's doing by making sure that this gate is going to be shut as the Sabbath is approaching. Then as they start, just hanging by the wall, he had to go ahead and threaten to lay hands so that they wouldn't even come near the wall. Because as long as there's a possibility, Israel is also going to be around there to see what things they can purchase. Go ahead.
Brother, in verse 19, it kills that whole theory of trying to set a specific time that the Sabbath begins, like how we know the Seventh-day Adventist people like to set 6 o'clock or whatever time frame they set. He says, as it began to be dark before the Sabbath. So we know it's when that darkness comes about.
Right. And it's so many other things that are, dealt with the same way. Before it began to be dark, so it lets you know exactly when that Sabbath is going to begin. And he kicked into gear to make those things happen. But then you also have how we kept our holy days. Then as it began to be dark, it's a new day. You are the cleanest you're going to be at that point, because that is a brand new day. Nobody has done anything yet. So there's certain power that's connected there. Go ahead.
Verse 22. And I commanded the Levites that they should cleanse themselves, and that they should come and keep the gates, to sanctify the Sabbath day. Remember me, O my Elohim, concerning this also, and spare me according to the greatness of your mercy.
All right, let's go to 2 Kings chapter 25. 2 Kings chapter 25, and we're going to read verses 1 through 21.
Second Kings chapter 25 and verse 1. And it came to pass in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, in the 10th day of the month, that Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came, he and all his hosts, against Jerusalem, and pitched against it. And they built forts against it round about. And the city was besieged unto the 11th year of King Zedekiah. And on the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine prevailed in the city. And there was no bread for the people of the land. And the city was broken up, and all the men of war fled by night by the way of the gate between two walls, which is by the king's garden, Now the Chaldees were against the city round about, and the king went away toward the plain. And the army of the Chaldees pursued after the king and overtook him in the plains of Jericho, and all his army were scattered from him. So they took the king and brought him up to the king of Babylon to Riblah, and they gave judgment upon him. And they slew the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes, and put out the eyes of Zedekiah, and bound him with fetters of brass, and carried him to Babylon. And in the 5th month, on the 7th day of the month, which is the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, a servant of the king of Babylon, and to Jerusalem. And he burnt the house of Yahweh, and the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem, and every great man's house burnt he with fire.
Every great man's house burnt he with fire. Check that out. Go ahead.
And all the army of the Chaldees that were with the captain of the guard brake down the walls of Jerusalem round about. Now the rest of the people that were left in the city, and the fugitives that fell away to the king of Babylon, with the remnant of the multitude, did Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carry away. But the captain of the guard left off the poor of the land to be vine dressers and husbandmen. And the pillars of brass that were in the house of Yahweh, and the bases, and the brazen sea that was in the house of Yahweh, did the Chaldees break in pieces, and carried the brass off of them to Babylon. And the pots, and the shovels, and the snuffers, and the spoons, and all the vessels of brass wherewith they ministered, took they away.
Mm-hmm.
And the fire pans, and the bowls, and such things as were of gold, in gold, and of silver, in silver, the captain of the guard took away. The 2 pillars, 1 sea, and the bases which Shlomo had made for the house of Yahweh, the brass of all these vessels was without weight. The height of the 1 pillar was 18 cubits, and the chapiter upon it was brass, and the height of the chapiter 3 cubits, and the wreathen work, and the pomegranates upon the chapiter round about, and all of brass. And like unto these had the 2nd pillar with wreathen work. And the captain of the guard took Sariah the chief priest, and Zephaniah the 2nd priest, and the 3 keepers of the door. And out of the city he took an officer that was set over the men of war, and 5 men of them that were in the king's presence, which were found in the city, and the principal scribe of the host, which mustered the people of the land, and 60 men of the people of the land that were found in the city. Now Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, took these, and brought them to the king of Babylon to Riblah. And the king of Babylon smote them, and slew them at Riblah in the land of Hamath. So Yehudah was carried away out of their land.
Right. And when we deal with what the punishments were, that Yahweh would cause us to be removed out of our land. It is why we have so many different captivities amongst our people, because it is the punishment that Yahweh gave unto the children of Israel for disobedience, that we would be forced to deal with other nations in their land and serve their gods. And you see how when Yahweh does allow those nations to come in upon us, they come in and take everything. They've broken off the brass, they've taken the gold, they've taken the spoons, the mufflers, the dishes, all of these things that we were doing our sacrifices with. All of those things then get taken away. But when you understand how Yahweh deals, that's a part of the punishment. But then Yahweh is going to turn around and return all of those things. Let's go to Ezra chapter 1.
Ezra chapter 1 and verse 1. Now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of Yahweh by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled, Yahweh stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and put it also in writing, saying, Thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, Yahweh of heaven has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he has charged me to build him an house at Jerusalem, which is in Yehudah. Who is there among you of all his people? His El be with him, and let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Yehudah, and build the house of Yahweh El of Israel. He is the Elohim, which is in Jerusalem.
So then you see that once Yahweh causes the captivity to come to an end, he will even get the heathen to push forward to orchestrate the reconstructing of his kingdom. He even puts the very heathens that were once over us, when he changes their mind, now you have them saying, okay, who of his people is going to go and make this happen? Go ahead.
Whosoever remains in any place where he sojourns, let the men of his place help him with silver, and with gold, and with goods, and with beasts, besides the freewill offering for the house of Elohim that is in Jerusalem. Then rose up the chief of the fathers of Yehudah and Benjamin, and the priests and the Levites, with all them whose spirit Elohim had raised up, to go up to build the house of Yahweh which is in Jerusalem. And all they that were about them strengthened their hands with vessels of silver, with gold, with goods, and with beasts, and with precious things, besides all that was willingly offered. Also Cyrus the king brought forth the vessels of the house of Yahweh, which Nebuchadnezzar had brought forth out of Jerusalem, and put them in the house of his gods. Even those did Cyrus king of Persia bring forth by the hand of Mithridath the treasurer, and numbered them unto Sheshbazzar, the prince of Yehudah.
So then you see how also Cyrus the king, verse 7, brought the vessels of the house of Yahweh, which Nebuchadnezzar had brought forth out of Jerusalem, and had put them in the house of his gods. Even those did Cyrus king of Persia bring forth by the hand of Mithridath the treasurer. He's causing all of those things that were taken, all of them are being returned. Go ahead.
This is the number of them: 30 charges of gold, 1,000 charges of silver, 29 knives, 30 basins of gold, silver basins of a second sort 410, and other vessels 8,000. All the vessels of gold and of silver were 5,400. All these did Sheshbazzar bring up with them of the captivity that were brought up from Babylon unto Jerusalem.
Right. So then you see how when Yahweh says the captivity is done, when he says that the punishment is done, he then releases all of those things. But you have to consider the heartbreak that happened unto Israel, looking at all of those things being taken. All right. All of these wonderful things that were there for service, and then all of that being taken. You have to look at it how Yahweh looked at it. Basically, he used the heathen as a bank to hold all of his stuff while Israel is being punished. Then, once Israel is through being punished, he opens the bank back up and have them give you all of that stuff back. And that's something that we have to consider, because Yahweh has a tendency to do the same thing over and over. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 43.
Isaiah chapter 43 and verse 1. But now thus says Yahweh that created you, O Yaakov, And he that formed you, O Israel, fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by your name, you are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you.
Not
Through the
if
rivers,
you pass through the waters. When you pass through the waters. Go ahead.
I'll be with you, and through the rivers, they shall not overflow you.
Uh-huh.
When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned.
Not if you walk through the fire. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned. Go ahead.
Neither shall the flame kindle upon you. For I am Yahweh your El, the Holy One of Israel, your Savior. I gave Egypt for your ransom, Ethiopia and Seba for you. Since you was precious in my sight, you have been honorable. I have loved you. Therefore will I give men for you and people for your life.
Right. And some of us have already experienced that. I will give men for you and people for your life. There were other situations where individuals had to sacrifice so that you could hear this truth. And that's something that we just have to deal with, because we can't say that we were worthy for those things to happen. There were other people in our family that were more intelligent than we were, but for some reason, Yahweh allowed for us to hear the word. Go ahead.
Fear not, for I am with you. I'll bring your seed from the east and gather you from the west. I'll say to the north, give up, and to the south, keep not back. Bring my sons from far, and my daughters from the ends of the earth.
Uh-huh.
Even everyone that is called by my name, for I have created him for my glory. I have formed him. Yes, I have made him.
And that's going to do be a strange thing for the nations to see that the children of Israel are being brought from all of these places, especially after we have been told that the people of Israel are already in the land. So, that's going to create some really strange things there when you get right down to it, that the children of Israel then start to be brought from all these other places, because we are scattered all over the place. So that's going to be a huge problem in thought process to the nations who believe that they know who the children of Israel really are. Go ahead.
Verse 8. Bring forth the blind people that have eyes, and the deaf that have ears, that all the nations be gathered together. Let the people be assembled. Who among them can declare this and show us former things? Let them bring forth their witnesses, that they may be justified. Or let them hear and say, it is truth. You are my witnesses, says Yahweh, and my servant whom I have chosen, that you may know and believe me, and understand that I am he. Before me there was no El formed, neither shall there be after me. I, even I, am Yahweh, and beside me there is no Savior. I have declared and have saved, and I have showed, when there was no strange God among you. Therefore you are my witnesses, says Yahweh, that I am El. Yes, before the day was, I am he, and there was none that can deliver out of my hand. I will work, and who shall let it? Thus says Yahweh, your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. For your sake have I sent to Babylon, and have brought down all their nobles and the Chaldeans whose cries in the ships. I am Yahweh, your Holy One, the Creator of Israel, your King.
Uh-huh.
Thus says Yahweh, which makes a way in the sea, and a path in mighty waters, which brings forth the chariot and horse, the army and the power. They shall lie down together, They shall not rise. They are extinct. They are quenched as tow. Remember you not the former things, neither consider the things of old. Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall you not know it? I will even make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. The beasts of the field shall honor me, the dragons and the owls, because I give waters in the wilderness and rivers in the desert to give drink to my people, my chosen.
Uh-huh.
This people have I formed for myself. They shall show forth my praise. But you have not called upon me, O Yaakov. But you have been weary of me, O Israel. You have not brought me the small cattle of your burnt offerings, neither have you honored me with your sacrifices. I have not caused you to serve me with an offering, nor wearied you with incense. You have brought me no sweet cane with money, neither have you filled me with the fat of your sacrifices. But you have made me to serve with your sins. You have wearied me in your lawlessness. I, even I, am he that blots out your transgressions for my own sake, and will not remember your sins.
Uh-huh.
Put me in remembrance. Let us plead together. Declare you that you may be justified. Your first father has sinned, and your teachers have transgressed against me. Therefore, I have profaned the princes of the sanctuary and have given Yaakov to the curse and Israel to reproaches.
All right. Let us hear the conclusion of this matter. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 60. Isaiah chapter 60, and let's read verses 1 through 22.
It says, chapter 16, verse 1. Arise, shine, for your light is come, and the glory of Yahweh is risen upon you. For, behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. But Yahweh shall arise upon you, and his glory shall be seen upon you. And the Gentiles shall come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your rising.
And the Gentiles shall come to your light. These are things that are definitely going to turn the world upside down. Because at this point, we know that the adversary, the devil, has pushed all of the power that he has, that he has really pushed and made war against the children of Israel. So you have all of those things shown unto us. We have every news outlet shows everything that our people get off into, which creates a mindset of the kind of people that they believe that we are. So this is why it is written, it will come a time that they that kill you will believe that they do Elohim a service. And why do they believe that? Because of the images that have been shown, and they don't have any remorse for that. But this is also how Yahweh judged the hearts of men, because in all of this, they are not considering that they are doing those things to the children of Israel. They are just doing that to some black people who are ex-slaves. Once Yahweh reveals that unto them, that's why it is written, is going to say, our fathers have inherited lies. Go ahead.
Verse 4. Lift up your eyes round about and see. All they gather themselves together, they come to you. Your sons shall come from far, and your daughters shall be nursed at your side. Then you shall see and flow together, and your heart shall fare and be enlarged, because the abundance of the sea shall be converted unto you. The forces of the Gentiles shall come unto you. The multitude of camels shall cover you, the dromedaries of Midian and Ephah. All they from Sheba shall come. They shall bring gold and incense, and they shall show forth the praises of Yahweh. All the flocks of Kedar shall be gathered together unto you. The rams of Nebaioth shall minister unto you. They shall come up with the acceptance on mine altar, and I'll glorify the house of my glory. Who are these that fly as a cloud, and as the doves of their verse 8? Who are these that fly as a cloud, and as the doves to their windows? Surely the isles shall wait for me, and the ships of Tarshish first, to bring your sons from far, their silver and their gold with them, unto the name of Yahweh their El, and to the Holy One of Israel, because he has glorified you. And the sons of strangers shall build up your walls, and their kings shall minister unto you. For in my wrath I smote you, but in my favor have I had mercy on you.
Now it says, surely the isles shall wait for me, and the ships of Tarshish first, to bring your sons from far. And we then understand it was those long distance ships, how our people were spread across the globe. And then it is those very long distance ships that are going to return the children of Israel back to our land. But we do understand that that is going to be a process. Go ahead.
Therefore your gates shall be open continually. They shall not be shut day nor night, that men may bring unto you the forces of the Gentiles, and that their kings may be brought.
Right. All of the things that we've suffered loss, all of the free labor that the children of Israel were forced to do, all of the work that was done with rigor shall be recompensed unto Israel. This is the very thing that you read in Zechariah 14. All of the nations will come up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles, and they have to come and present an offering. Go ahead.
For the nation and kingdom that will not serve you shall perish. Yes, those nations shall be utterly wasted. The glory of Lebanon shall come on to you, the fir tree, the pine tree, and the box together, to beautify the place of my sanctuary, and I'll make the place of my feet glorious. The sons also of them that afflicted you shall come bending unto you, and all they that despise you shall bow themselves down at the soles of your feet, and they shall call you the city of Yahweh, the Zion of the Holy One of Israel. Whereas you have been forsaken and hated, so that no man went through you, I'll make you an eternal excellency, a joy of many generations. You shall also suck the milk of the Gentiles, and shall suck the breast of kings. And you shall know that I, Yahweh, am your Savior and your Redeemer, the mighty one of Yaakov.
Right. And you know, when you look at those things, you have to back up and consider the situations of slavery, where the black mothers were made to feed the master's children. I'm talking breastfeeding, and now they have their own children who are, waiting to be fed, but they have to feed master's children first. So you consider, those things as you read that, and understand that when Yahweh does recompense something, he understands everything that was suffered. He understands everything that we were made to go through, and he's going to make it right in a way that only he can. Go ahead.
For brass I'll bring gold, and for iron I'll bring silver, and for wood brass, and for stones iron. I will also make your officers peace. I'll also make your officers peace, and your exactors righteousness. Violence shall no more be heard in your land, wasting nor destruction within your borders. But you shall call your walls salvation, and your gates praise. The sun shall be no more your light by day, neither for brightness shall the moon give light unto you. But Yahweh shall be unto you an everlasting light, and your Elohim your glory.
Right. Now, of course, we're dealing with another part of the kingdom at that point. Go ahead.
Your sun shall no more go down, neither shall your moon withdraw itself. For Yahweh shall be your everlasting light, and the days of your mourning shall be ended. Your people also shall be all righteous. They shall inherit the land forever. The branch of my planting, the work of my hands, that I may be glorified. A little one shall become 1,000, and a small one a strong nation. I, Yahweh, will hasten it in his time.
All right. That is all that we're going to do for today. Praise Yahweh. Thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you, you brothers who came in to make sure that we could get this broadcast off. Praise Yahweh for you. That's all that we're going to do for today. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.